Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. I love everything Theosophical, about which I know nothing, but I just thought I'd say that. It's always good to get you on I love what you're doing. It's fantastic. You'll tell me what it is later. I want to start with a chant and some movement. So if movement is a problem, you can stay where you are and you just move in the chair. But if you can stand, not yet. David's ready. He's going, I'm going to stand. I can do it. So in a moment, I'll invite you to stand. And what we're going to do is we're going to chant to, the Divine Mother in general. The words are just Jai Ma, so sort of like welcome mother. But this is specifically one of the ways that the Kali temple is opened. When the gates are open, then people start chanting Jai Ma. So the way we're going to do it is with some body movement. So it's going to go Jai Ma, and then to your left, Jai Ma, back to the center, and then to the right. And it'll sound like this: Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. And you're going to blow out the Ma part. Now, a lot of air. And then at the end, and you'll know it's the end because I will have run out of air, we're just going to go Ma and settle back down in silence. You get the idea? Okay, so if you can stand, please stand. And what you do with your hands, you can put them on your chest or wherever they're comfortable. And we start in the center, then to the left, then to the center, and then to the right. Okay? So we'll start slow, and then we'll pick it up a little bit. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma. Okay, wait.
Your left.
Yes, we're going to turn to, you're going to go, doesn't matter whose left it is, as long as you all decide it's the same left. So center, you seem to have that. And then you're going to go to the left. So some of you have a different orientation. You must be imagining you're in Australia or something, and the toilets go the other way. Is that right? Where's John? What?
If you turn around, we can follow you.
No, you have a right and a left. That's really not how it works, but you're almost going to bump heads. Let's go very slow. Do we need helmets? Maybe some of you need helmets. I'm gonna chalk it up to age, but really, okay. So everyone, let's do that. Everyone raise their left hand.
It says L.
What?
It says L.
It says L right there. Yeah. What does this one say? Loser. I don't know. All right. So this is the way we're going to go first. If you're hitting someone's head, one of you hasn't got a clue what we're doing. So let's try it again. All right. Okay. Jai Ma, 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 Jai Ma. And then you can sit. All right, well, thank you. Any questions? That's sort of it. That's all. That's your left. Your left. But now you don't have to worry about it because we've left that behind altogether. So we're talking about Betty's next to favorite topic, from light into darkness, right? And we're going to use the divine feminine or the divine mother in a variety of archetypal forms as a metaphor for what we're talking about. We are in the Kali Yuga. It's a time of destruction. Here's the good news. everything is going to hell. Here's the better news. You can't avoid it. Here's the best news. It doesn't last. But we have to go into this dark place. Right? We have to go into this dark place. And in many spiritual traditions, the dark place is identified with the Divine Mother. So you have Kali in the Hindu tradition. You have the dark beloved in the Song of Songs, where she says, in English translation, most of them say, she says, I am black but beautiful. That's not what the Hebrew says. I am black and beautiful is what the Hebrew says. There's no but there. And the beloved that she represents is this darkness. When you enter into an intimate relationship with her, you're entering into the darkness. When Kali does her work, she's stripping you of everything you know, which leads you into the darkness of unknowing. I mean, this is all stuff Pablo was talking about earlier. I wrote it down because I knew I was going to forget I'm going to read it to you because don't have it memorized. From the Chinese, from the Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu says, the unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Caught in desire, you see only manifestations. Yet mystery and manifestations arise from the same source. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gateway to all understanding. If we don't go into the dark within the dark, then we get no understanding. The problem with our time, up until fairly recently, is that we've been afraid of the dark. Right? We are obsessed with light. I don't know if you read the literature that I read. I read a lot of New Age literature, a lot of spiritual literature, and God is always associated with light and love, and it's so saccharine. Some of these traditions are so saccharine. I think I'm going to go into a diabetic coma because there's so much sweetness there. But the work isn't in the light. The work is in the dark. And I think that's what Pablo was saying, right? There he is. It's the darkness that is the mystery, that is our fundamental reality. Everything comes out of that. The Hebrew Bible begins with darkness. Then God says, or, let there be light. But the light is secondary, the darkness is primary. And both the dark and the light come from another source, the dark within the dark, in Lao Tzu's terms. Because it says in Isaiah 45:7, God says, I create light and I create darkness. I create good, I create evil. I, the unnameable, do all these things. Right? So there's this source of everything, this non-dual reality out of which everything comes. And we can't label it. You can't reduce, well, you can, we do it all the time, but it's a mistake to reduce it to an ism or an ideology or an image or anything like that. Because when we do, we take ourselves out of the dark, or at least we imagine we do. We take ourselves out of the dark, at least psychologically, and then we enter into faux light, or faux wisdom, or just, what I've heard called recently, fake news. Right? Fake spirituality. Spirituality based on power and control and will, as opposed to being surrendered. Not even surrender. I don't believe you can surrender to God, because that takes a lot of willpower to do that. I think you can be surrendered to God. I don't think that we are voluntarily entering into a dark time. We are entering into a dark time because that's the only thing that's left to do. It's a crumbling, that's what the Kali Yuga is, a complete crumbling of everything we've been holding on to into this immense darkness. But the darkness is, well, we can't say anything about the darkness, but our experience of the darkness, once we get over the horror of, being in the dark, our experience of the darkness is an experience of what I call searing love. A love that burns away all of the BS that we've been clinging to all our lives. every ism, every ideology, every religion, they all have to be burned away in the divine love of the mother. Now, this is metaphor. I'm not taking it literally. I don't really believe there's a woman up there somewhere. I don't believe there's an up there, right? We know enough about the universe to know that up and down make no sense. You can't go up when we think we're going to go up into outer space. No, that's ridiculous. There's no up, because you could go the other way. It's also outer space, right? You can go out from an object and into an object, but you can't go up and down. So our metaphors are all wrong. I was with Bishop Spong. You know who he is? Right? So he and I were teaching. I should tell you up front, I am a compulsive name dropper. I drop names so that you will be impressed with me, right? So when I say I was teaching with Bishop Spong, you should go, oh, right? Otherwise, there's no point in me dropping that name. Yeah, well, if you don't know who he is, then I get no points. But right. I've also taught with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in India. Just checking. True, but just checking. So I'm with Bishop Spong, and Bishop Spong is giving this, it was a Christian gathering, and he's giving this talk, and he brings up this notion of up and down and all of that, and he says, all the metaphors are in his tradition, all the metaphors in Christianity are wrong. And he uses the Lord's Prayer as his example. Our Father, who art in heaven. Just already he was gagging. I mean, first of all, our Father. Now, I'm using a mother metaphor, somewhat as a balance. But the idea that God is male or female, that God is gendered that way, is sort of ridiculous. Who art in heaven. Because that's crazy. There's no heaven, there's no high, or there's no low. So he goes into this whole long thing about it. That was an evening talk. The next morning, it's Sunday morning. This is an Episcopal gathering. They have all these Episcopal priests, and he is an Episcopal bishop. And they do their Sunday morning service. And right from the beginning, they go, Our Father who art in heaven. And I gave the talk right after, and I got up. He had already left, Bishop Spong. I got up and I said, was anybody listening to Bishop Spong? He said, don't do that, and you're doing it. And then you could see the priests looking at each other, realizing we did it unconsciously. The metaphors are so deeply ingrained in us that we don't even think about them. But we have to think about them, if only to let them go. If only to let them go, because they're all misleading. Even the ones I'm using are misleading. But we have to use something. So I think it's more accurate to talk about moving into the dark than moving into the light. The light is a hideout. The light is an escape. The real work is done in the dark. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about shadow work. That's also, I think that's an important thing to do. But I'm talking about something far more global than the psychological shadow. What's going to happen is everything we know is going to collapse. Environmentally, economically, psychologically, politically, spiritually, everything we know is going to collapse. And there's no way to escape that. The only question we have to ask ourselves is, am I going to go down screaming, or am I going to go down singing, or laughing, or loving? Most of us are going to go down screaming. Most of us are clinging so tightly to whatever it is that when that thing is shattered, we are going to be devastated as opposed to liberated. But the real truth, I think, of the Kali Yuga, this entering into the darkness, is a time of liberation. But only if we're willing to be stripped of everything. My experience of the Divine Mother started when I was an undergraduate. But it became more real for me when I was a rabbi, which is unfortunate because there's not a lot of room for the Divine Mother in Judaism, especially when she started to appear to me in the form of Mother Mary. So it's not like you go into synagogue on Shabbat and say, well, I was talking to the Virgin, and you know. But I couldn't avoid it, right? This is just happening to me. And the messages I get from her are all about destruction. Now, as I deepen my understanding of the divine feminine, I realize that Mary is just one manifestation of multiple manifestations of the Divine Mother. And Judaism is filled with them. I mean, right in Genesis, when Eve leaves the garden, which she does under her own volition. I don't have time to go into it. But we were taught that Adam and Eve are exiled from the garden. But that isn't true. Even in English Bibles, it isn't true. Only Adam is exiled from the garden. Eve leaves under her own volition. And she leaves according to the Jewish tradition because she is mother wisdom. Adam says to her when Eve walks out, he calls her Eve, which means Chava, which is from Chai, which means life. And he says, I'm calling you that because you are the mother of all living things. Now, clearly, he's not talking about a specific woman, because she hasn't mothered anything yet, right? But he sees her as an archetype of the Divine Mother. It's like Ramakrishna, when he marries Ma Sarada, he sees her as the goddess. Even though he knows that it's a person, but he sees her as the goddess incarnate. Adam sees Eve, in a sense, as the goddess incarnate. She shows up all throughout Jewish mystical tradition. She shows up throughout Christian mystical tradition. She's in every tradition. And I think the message is always the same, that her love is a liberating love, but the cost is everything you're clinging to. And you won't let go, so she will take it from you. That's what I get from my experiences with her. That it's, I live my life like this, holding on, and she somehow gets it to go like this, and then I fall down. And if you're in a 12-step program, it's hitting rock bottom over and over and over again. That's the Kali Yuga. That's where we're going. Every time we hit rock bottom and we grab onto something so it stops, that will be taken away, and we fall more. And we fall again. There's another rock bottom and another rock bottom, until we realize that there's no final bottom. It's just falling deeper and deeper and deeper into the darkness. And when we realize there's no final bottom, we stop worrying about falling altogether. And then we have to learn how to live in this fluid environment. That's tomorrow's talk. So you'll leave here depressed, but I'll fix that tomorrow. That way I figured some of you will stay till Tuesday, because I didn't. We listened this morning, I don't know if everyone heard it, but someone tossed out the concept of neti, not this, not that. It's the same thing that we're talking about. Pablo talked about via negativa, just the letting go. I was with Father Thomas Keating. Did I tell you I taught with the Dalai Lama? Yeah. So I was with Father Thomas a couple years ago when I went to visit him because everyone told me he was dying. It wasn't the first time I heard he was dying, but this time it really looked like he was dying. And then I just spoke to him on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and he was not dying yet. And I said to him on the phone, I said, so what are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm dying, but nobody will take me seriously. And that's because you never stop breathing. But a couple of years ago, I went to see him. Now he's in Spencer, Massachusetts, at the abbey he started at. But a couple of years ago, he was still at St. Joseph's Monastery in not Aspen, but Snowmass, Colorado. Thanks. And I went. We had about 45 minutes alone together, and then I gave a 3-hour seminar that he attended. And he was dying. He is dying, and that's interesting to me. So I said, how are you doing it? How are you dying? I mean, the guy has been a monk since he was 16. He's dealt with these issues, I would think. He knows all these spiritual practices. How are you dying? And he says, I'm dying the way I lived. And I don't know if you've ever seen him, but he's quite tall, and he always wears this black and white wool cassock, but he couldn't stand. He's sitting in a chair. But he does this movement with his hands. He says, this is how I live my life. Every time Thomas came up, I let Thomas go. Every time Thomas comes up, I let Thomas go. And he just keeps doing this for a while. And then he says, at some point, Thomas will come up, I will let Thomas go, and Thomas won't come back up. I'm dead. I said, okay. What happens when you die? Where do you go? Because he's Catholic. I thought, give me some heaven and hell stuff. Where do you go when you die? And he says, he sort of looks at me like I'm an idiot, which is true. And he says, you don't get it. Thomas comes up, I let Thomas go. When you let Thomas go, there is no place to go. Where does the wave go when it returns to the ocean? Nowhere. There's no wave. You can't track that wave in the ocean somewhere. It's just the ocean, because it always was the ocean. It's just the ocean in motion. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a new age. It's a new age virus to do those kinds of things. Yeah, okay, so it's the ocean in motion. I apologize for that. And that's what you are. That's what I am. That's what everything is. It's God in motion. But the motion's origin is in this darkness within darkness. It's in this hidden place that we cannot label, we cannot see. And we can't see it because it isn't ever an object. This came up a little bit earlier where someone asked about Raman and Maharshi. So I love Raman and Maharshi. I taught with Raman and No. No. Liar. Really. That's fake news. No, Ramana died in 1950. I was born in 1951. If you believe in reincarnation, perhaps but I don't know. So I study actually with a student of his, but that's another story. But someone asked about Raman and Maharshi and the practice of self-inquiry. And the thing that I think is important to get from that conversation is that you cannot, as soon as you do self-inquiry, you ask the question, who is thinking this? Who is feeling this? You try to see that eye behind the eye. You've turned it into an object, and now it's not it anymore. Right? You cannot see the I. You already are the I. You can't turn around and see it. You can't turn inward and find it. It isn't a thing. It isn't an object. It's the eternal subject. It's the process of knowing, but never the known. It's the process of seeing, but never the seen. If you imagine that you have glimpsed it, what you've glimpsed may be an interesting thing, but it's the glimpser that we're talking about, even though you can't talk about it, right? That's why it's dark. That's why it's invisible. That's why it's Lao Tzu's darkness within darkness. In the Buddhist tradition, there's the Heart Sutra. And the Heart Sutra is translated into a zillion different languages, but the last line is always done in Sanskrit. And even though it uses a different metaphor, it's the same idea. So in the last line of the Heart Sutra, it's gate, para gate, parasam gate, bodhisvaha. Where's John? Am I right? Yeah? I don't know where he went. Oh, there he is. Am I right?
Yes, sounds right.
That's right. So, gate, beyond, paragate, beyond even the idea of beyond. Parasamgate, stop thinking about beyond. It's beyond even that. And then bodhi, wisdom, svaha, wow. That's my translation of svaha. It's wow, right? So when I was training in Japanese Zen, which I did for 10 years, we did Heart Sutra every day. No, yeah, I get that too. All right, fine. Fine, thank you very much. Now you're just kidding me, I know it. So the Zen master would take the wooden fish, and he had a little stick, and he would, tap out the chant. And it would go, Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, svaha. Try that. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, svaha. Gate, gate, para, gate, parasam, gate, bodhi, svaha. And you just do that over and over and over again. And then you end like you did with the ma, svaha. Sort of melting into the not knowing. Not into the unknown, because that's a thing. You can't even have the unknown, because already that's an object. Language fails us. So in the Kali Yuga, we're going to lose our language. We won't know what to say anymore. There's going to be a deep, profound silence. All the religions are going to fall silent. They should do that now voluntarily, but not yet. They're going to come to a point where they can't say anything. They're going to come to a point where we know that anything you say isn't it. Right? In the Rig Veda, maybe the oldest spirit religious text that humanity has, it says, truth is one, people call it by different names. Nice, it's a nice thing, right? I like that. But it's wrong. Lao Tzu corrects it. Lao Tzu says, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. In other words, any name you've got isn't right. If you put them together, put the ideas together, you get truth is one and people call them by different names, all of which are wrong. Because if you got a name, you're already stuck. And we're moving into the time of the nameless. So, we're going into this darkness. Everything you see around you, the rise of fascism, the collapse of the guru system. That's what Connie was talking about last night. The falling apart of the infrastructure, environmental and psychological, spiritual, the falling apart of all these things, that's what's going to happen. And the question is, how do we survive it? All right, I'm not worried about the survival of the planet. The planet will survive. It doesn't need billions and billions of humans to do that. It would be much happier without either all of us or most of us. Since most of us aren't voluntarily leaving, there's Elon Musk, he wants to go to Mars. So, have a nice trip, that's great. When he terraforms Mars, if we could terraform Mars, we could fix the Earth. But okay, so we're going to terraform Mars, and then who's going to go there? Only super, super, super wealthy people, and the super, super, super poor people that they hire for a pittance to take care of them because they're so rich they don't know how to take care of themselves, right? So you're going to have this incredible super rich class and a serf class living on Mars, while Earth just shakes off the infestation of humans. I'm not looking forward to that. I don't expect the Martian trip to make it anytime soon. But I do think that we've gone past the point of no return with environmental collapse. So the question is, what do we do about it? We can't stop it. So what do we do? Aren't you with me so far? You don't have to agree, because I'm depressing you, that's the point. But you get what I'm saying. So the question is, and the question that was raised, David raised it to Connie on the other night about, I don't know, we're trying to get the baby boomers involved. Right. But Betty said you really meant the millennials. That's right. Either way, I don't have an answer to that. Yeah, that's right. But I think it's a good question about, so what does something like the Theosophical Society do with the Kali Yuga, with all of this collapse? I think that the TSA is poised to be a positive, powerful voice in a time when the silence is descending. I know that sounds paradoxical. More and more people are realizing that the siloed religions are dead, right? Fewer and fewer people are just Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or whatever, right? We're all becoming hyphenated. 2,500 years ago, I think, is Diogenes said something like, anyone who says, he used the terms in English translation from the Greek, Oriental and Occidental. So anyone who thinks, who's just an Occidental and not also an Oriental is only half a person, and vice versa. All right, the language is dated. But the idea is, if you're just in one box, you don't get it. We have to drop the box, and then, but on the way, what we do is we discover this shared reality that all the boxes have at their dark core, what's called the perennial wisdom, the realization of all the mystics. It's the same. Everything is a manifesting of the single reality that's called Brahman or God or whatever it is. You can know that directly. When you know that directly, you only act kindly to one another and to the planet. And knowing that directly and acting kindly is the reason we're here. That's our highest calling. Every religion has that at its core. Not the ethical core, not the superficial on the surface, but on the deep mystical core, that's it. And knowing it is useless. You have to experience it. And the way you experience it is entering into the dark place. We're going to experience it not just individually, but as a species. As our entire civilization goes into what you might call a dark night of the civilization, a dark night of the collective soul. It's going to be very difficult, but there's no getting around it. So how do we deal with it? What do we do? So I think, I'm just going to throw some ideas out and do it just around the Theosophical Society. And I'm a member. Right? I joined. You got my, whatever it was, $60 or something. I don't know what it was. You got my $60. That now entitles me to tell you what to do. Right? All right. So if the Theosophical Society is going to speak to people who are searching for something outside the box, number one, it can't be a box. Right? I don't really think it is a box. So I'm not going to go there. But here's a couple things that have to change. So I love this poster. I love this poster, right? You like the poster? Very nice. They're on sale for $1, so you can get these. So the first thing, we got to deal with the swastika. All right, the swastika. Now I know it's not the Nazi swastika. I get that. But if you have to explain to someone it's not that swastika, you've already lost them. So I went to the bookstore the other day, and they've got these beautiful wood carvings of the logo, and it's got the swastika, but someone said, oh, they sort of softened it. So it looks like, I don't know, like an X or something. Now it has no meaning. The swastika has deep meaning. It's just that it's been co-opted, and people, they're never going to get it. We got to replace the swastika. I think the yin-yang might work. You know, that seems to get to the same message. I would definitely replace that. Then here's the next thing. The three... Okay. The three objects of the Theosophical Society. Objects must have meant something when this was written that doesn't really mean now. Objectives, goals, missions, something has to fix that. So you don't want people to think about things that are not essential, because the three things are fantastic. This is what people are looking for right now, to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood. I mean, come on. Brotherhood, no, not fellowship either. Universal community of humanity, I don't care, but you got to get rid of brotherhood, because half the population is walking away. They're not going to deal with that. Without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, color, and all those things, right? To encourage the study of comparative religion, philosophy, and science. That is so desperately needed, and nobody else is doing it, right? They're doing spirituality, or they're doing science, but they're not seeing them together the way Pablo was talking about earlier. It's not religion versus science. It's the quest for wisdom on different dimensions of reality, and they're all speaking, or they should be, all speaking to one another. And there's this wonderful book by Ken Wilber called Quantum Questions, where he interviews scientists, or takes essays from scientists, who end up sounding like mystics, like Fritjof Capra's The Dancing, Tao of Physics. And then the other guy wrote the Dancing Wu-Li Masters. Whoever that guy was, I forgot. My apologies to that guy. And then to investigate the unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in humanity. Thank you. Not man. Who's writing this still? So that last part is even more important because that's the practice part. That's the part where I learn, I don't know what the word is anymore. There's no good language for it. But I find these latent capacities in myself, in the community. And somehow I am trained in various methods to test them out, to birth them, whatever the metaphor is. But the three objects are fantastic, but the language has got to be fixed. No one's going to hear it. So that's one thing that has to be done. Another thing that has to be done is, and you have a great social media presence. So I think that's great. But I think what needs to be, this is from George Lakoff. You know who he is? Yeah. So give me an ooh. Yeah, no. I don't know George Lakoff. I read a book. So no. George Lakoff is a linguist who studies language. He's a consultant for the Democratic Party. He's written a number of very good academic scholarly books, plus the book called Don't Think of an Elephant. And his whole thing is we are engaged in meme warfare, M-E-M-E, meme. A meme is an idea like a gene, but it's an idea that, like a virus, spreads from person to person. And the persons who control the meme control the culture. So President Trump is a master of memes. That's all he tweets are memes. Fake news, witch hunt. Those are memes. And when the news media repeats them, they just strengthen the meme. They may say it's not fake news, but the brain only hears fake news. It's not a witch hunt, but your brain only hears witch hunt. I think that the Theosophical Society has the ultimate meme. You've had it forever, but it's not out there enough. And that is, there is no religion higher than truth. Give me a break. I see that, and it's like, bam, a light goes off in my head. Of course that's true. And what's the comeback? What's the comeback? Oh no, my religion is higher than truth. Are you kidding me? That you've lost right then. If you say that, oh no, my religion, it's not true, it's higher than truth. No, that's ridiculous. Truth is the highest thing we can imagine, but truth isn't fixed. Truth isn't in a box. So to say that there is no religion higher to truth, and I'm just preaching to the choir. All I'm asking the choir to do is sing more loudly. But when you say there is no religion higher than truth, you're putting truth out there in a sense as the unknowable, the Tao that cannot be named. And you're saying we never get to the bottom of it. I'm going up, but really it's probably down. When you go into the darkness that the Divine Mother is offering us, is dragging us into, she's dragging us into the truth. It's an act of love that is taking the whole civilization down into the truth so that if and when it rebirths itself, it does so from a deeper understanding of what reality really is. Not the understanding that we are given from the patriarchal religions, and they're all patriarchal religions, that were created by men, for men, and have become institutions where the only concern is power and control. So, I don't know if this is true, but I think it's true. I think it's true that the Theosophical Society has all the pieces to be there when the collapse happens and to help guide people through it, not away from it, but through it into whatever's next. And I think that's the work of the society. I don't think you can measure it by bringing people into meetings. I don't know if that's a good measure. I think you measure it by getting the meme out. Right. So that when everybody, thank you, brother. So when everybody, preach it, David, brother David, preach it to me. When everyone is saying, wait, there is no religion higher than truth, that's when you know you've won. Right? When you understand, as we were taught this morning, that there's this rich, fecund darkness that is the ultimate reality. Not because it's evil. I mean, in the New Testament, darkness becomes the enemy. They separate, in the Hebrew Bible, God is the source of darkness. In the New Testament, darkness is associated with Satan. And light it's all about light. But that's not going to work. People are realizing that's not the case. So when we realize this darkness within the darkness, this fundamental unknowable reality, which is why it's dark. It's not a color, it's the fact that it's unknowable. And we discover through experience that the darkness is in fact the I of Ramana, that is dark because it can't be seen, it can't be seen because it's not an object to be seen, but the seer itself. When we have that experience, and I think the society has the capacity to help us get that experience, that is going to get us through the darkness in a whole and holy way. So one last piece, and then I'm going to open it up. In the Talmud, which is an anthology of rabbinic teachings, there's a story in the Talmud about 4 rabbis who go to heaven, alive. It's not after they die. So it's through their mystical practice. They go to heaven. And then each has, and they're all men back then, each has his own experience. One of them goes to heaven, looks around, and dies. Second one goes to heaven, looks around, and goes insane. The third one goes to heaven, looks around, and becomes an apostate, a heretic, but leaves Judaism. And the fourth one, Rabbi Akiva, goes to heaven and comes back whole. And it says he goes up b'shalom and he comes back b'shalom. Not peace, because shalom means peace, but it also means shalem, wholeness. He goes up in wholeness and he comes back in wholeness. The experience of heaven you have to have preparation. That's the work that we're talking about when we talk about spiritual practice. The culture has the same 4 options. We're either going to go up and die, have the experience of the darkness and die. We'll have the experience of the darkness and go mad, though it's hard for me to believe we can become more insane than we already are. We're going to go into the darkness, and when we come out, we'll be apostates. In other words, we won't have understood anything that happened. We'll reject everything, just go back doing the madness that we were doing before. Or we'll be prepared to enter into the darkness in community, compassionate community, loving community, decentralized community, not people necessarily carrying the TSA card with them. It's not that kind of thing, but people who have been seated with the meme, seated with the message, seated with the practices, so that they can go down into the darkness whole and come up whenever the up, coming out again, whenever the out again time is, equally whole. And I think that's the task. And I hope that you can make that happen. Yeah. And to make that happen, she needs megabucks. So that's your job. Barbara will make it happen. You just got to give her millions of dollars to pull it off. All right, so I'm going to leave open time for questions.
There's a problem with there's no religion higher than truth, in that truth has been co-opted to be my truth versus your truth, sort of a synonym for belief or opinion.
Right, good point. So that was a statement. So what you're saying is, A, I think you're right. B, we got to fix that, right? When someone says, oh, this is true for me, that's garbage. Either it's true or it's not true. If it's true for you, then it's just your experience, your little psychological thing. But that's not what we're talking about. I don't know where the saying come from. There is no religion higher than truth. Do we know? Was it Blavatsky? I don't know. I don't know who said it.
It was from the Raja of Benares. The
Oh.
Maharaja of Benares.
Oh, okay. So I don't think he didn't mean there's no religion higher than my truth. It's truth with a capital T beyond anything we know. We have to get that message back out there again. Because, everything, it's what Ken Wilber calls the green meme, where everything is relative. Oh, your truth and your truth. It's nonsense. There's truth with a capital T. You can't name it, but you can move in the direction of it. But it's not that personal, narcissistic, my truth.
Could you please say more about the sacred feminine as a guidance?
So she's not guiding, she's just destroying. I mean, this is just based on my own experience, right? So my own experience, my own visions of her, my own conversations with her, are the work I've done for over 10 years with the Daughters of Wisdom, which is a Catholic order of women, of nuns devoted to Mary as, in my mind, archetype of the divine feminine. She's not a guide. She is, I don't know what you'd say. I mean, she's this fire that is simply burning away all the dross that keeps us from realizing the unrealizable truth, if that makes any sense at all. So I don't see her as, we're going to follow her as a guru. That's not what I'm experiencing. It's just that the return of the Divine Mother in all these different traditions is I guess you might say, it's a metaphor of the cleansing of these religions of themselves, of all their beliefs, of all their... Does that make sense? I don't know if that even makes sense. Doesn't make sense to you. I'm not even sure it makes sense to me. Because I'm trying to avoid giving you a sense that there's a person out there who's leading. Yeah, ask.
Quality, like when you tune into a quality, instead of your ego, or the masculine thinking ego, that you're looking for the quality of the divine feminine.
Yeah,
quality as a guiding quality to
right.
balance out.
So I would I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So my experience is no, that's not it. It's not like the divine feminine is balancing out the divine masculine. There's no quality I can name because my experience is of her burning away all the qualities, all that kind of thinking, all that kind of talk. It's a real radical neti. It's not this, it's not that. It's leaving you in absolute darkness and free fall. No qualities, you can't hang on to her either. So I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, I don't want to give you I don't want to say something that I haven't experienced. But my experience is that she has no qualities, no name, no nothing. She's simply present as I fall apart. So similar, maybe this might help a little bit. So, well, actually, no. Let me stop with that because the other part is for tomorrow. And again, I don't know if that doesn't seem to satisfy you, and I appreciate that. I don't think I don't think there's a way that I could really answer that question.
One of the things Ledbetter said was that when we die, that in the process of death, mentally our mind will clear and we will be transformed into a more powerful, insightful individual.
Yeah, okay. I don't believe that, but is there a question there, or you just want to leave that?
We are transformed when we die.
Who's transformed?
Yeah.
Who?
The person who dies.
But who is that? I mean, I'm going to die.
Of course, you have to.
I'm going to die, and then you're
so
saying, but I'm not going to die. I'm going to be transformed. I mean, my thing. I mean, this is just my own theology, I guess, is there is no fundamental you that goes from life to life to life, or dimension to dimension to dimension. It's like the wave in the ocean. Where does the wave go when the ocean isn't waving it? Nowhere. It's just the ocean again. It's Father Thomas says, I let Thomas go, and nothing comes up. So I have no hope in any kind of individual survival on any dimension. Rami is gone, but that's not who I really am. Right? Rami is just the temporary manifesting of this unnameable darkness. So it doesn't. I don't worry about it, but I understand what he's saying. And boy, I mean, there's billions of people on the planet who believe in reincarnation, and there's some kind of Atman that goes from life to life to life. I just think they're all wrong.
Yes, actually the view is far more nuanced because the personal self in the Theosophical view also disappears. Actually, death is a progressive disappearing of all the traces of the personal self. So Krishnamurti said reincarnation is a fact, but it's not true because there is no personal self that reincarnates.
Right, yeah. I like, rather than talk about reincarnation, I talk about recycling. Right, the universe recycles, but I never come back.